Big Blue dominates the Miami Dolphins, and now suddenly head coach John Harbaugh has a really good problem on his hands.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast. I am your host, Patricia Traina, and today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by FanDuel. Join all the action at FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who is hitting a homer this MLB season. All right, Giant fans, on today's episode, you know what? I can get used to this. I know it's only preseason, but the New York Giants dominated. They dominated the Miami Dolphins. And yes, again, I know it's preseason. I know the Dolphins aren't very good, but we'll talk about the game. The Giants winning 26-3. There were some concerns, which we'll get to a little later on in the program. We'll talk about pick sixes. Now, there weren't any interceptions to speak of, but you'll see what I mean when I get to segment number 2, but let's talk about the domination. Again, 26-3. The Giants held the ball for over 40 minutes in this game, and it's actually created a little bit of a good problem for John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Giants. But let's first talk about some of the things that kind of stand out. The Giants, as if you saw the show on Friday, I talked about how the Giants dominated the Dolphins in practice. I felt like the Dolphins came to just, work on their fundamentals, whereas the Giants came, they were really looking to get better and they meant business, and they dominated them in the joint practice on Thursday. Well, that carried over to this week's game. Now, the Giants sat a lot of their starters, which we kind of expected was going to be the case. So Jackson Dart didn't play. There was no Kayvon Thibodeau, no Brian Burns. There was no Abdul Carter, and a whole bunch of other guys missed the game. Basically, we're giving them the night off. But here's the interesting thing, and why this has kind of created a quote-unquote problem, if you will, for John Harbaugh. The Giants' depth players were phenomenal. Now, normally, the lower down you go in terms of from second string to third string to even fourth string, the quality tends to drop off. Not so this particular game. The Giants did not have a drop off. They started primarily with their second team offense, their second team defense. And, the Dolphins rested a few guys too. And again, I get it. The Dolphins roster is not very good right now. But the Giants, they could have been sloppy. They weren't. They could have been, missing plays or having communication issues. You didn't see any of that. So it was a clean game. It was almost as though, you were watching the starters, even though you really weren't. But the quality was starter-like material. And that's such a big, big upgrade for the New York Giants. That speaks very highly of the roster that they have put together, Joe Schoen and head coach John Harbaugh. Now, what this does, why I say this presents a little bit of a problem, if you will, for John Harbaugh, he's got some tough decisions to make. There are some guys that played really well that they are, fighting for a roster spot. It's the competition has just been tremendous. I mean, there are years where you say, oh, it's a competitive camp, and you kind of see guys start to separate. You don't really see that across the board where guys are separating from the pack. It's just so tight, the competition. So that creates a little bit of a dilemma for head coach John Harbaugh, because who do you keep? And you know what? You ask John Harbaugh, I'm sure he'll tell you that that's a great problem to have. And when was the last time we could actually say that about the New York Giants, that they had so much depth that was playing at a high enough level to where they could say, oh, what are we going to do here? What decision is the right decision for us? So it's been a while, and that's a good problem for the Giants to have. So let's look at a couple numbers real quick. The Giants had 390 yards of offense. In the past, they were lucky if they got 200, low 200s. They only had 4 penalties in this game. Again, they ran a tight and mainly disciplined ship. There was maybe one penalty that I thought was ticky-tack, but, the other 3 were legitimate. So only 4 penalties. In terms of the offense and what they ran, I had the offense running 21 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 running back, 20 times, 11 personnel, 56 times, 22 personnel, 4 times, and 12 personnel, 1 time. So, there were guys that, like I said, didn't play. Isaiah likely didn't play. So, just I always like to see now what the Giants do in terms of what personnel package on offense they run a lot of. And that's what the number breakdown was. Now, the other thing that I think we have to take away from this win is that if the starters should ever not be there for whatever the reason, injury, they've been excused, whatever, you got to feel good about the depth. And when was the last time we could say that? In the past, we've said, oh my gosh, if the Giants lose Andrew Thomas, for example, they're done. If they lose Jackson Dart, they're done. The depth actually stepped up. And look, I know there's going to be critics out there that are going to say, but the Dolphins stunk. And they weren't very good. But you know what? They've got guys who are looking to make the roster too. They've got guys who, if they don't make the roster, want to make it elsewhere in the NFL. So maybe it's not the right combination just yet or whatever, but they have individuals. Preseason is more or less about man versus man as it is team versus team. And the Giants in their matchups, their man versus man matchups against the Dolphins, no contest. Absolutely no contest. The Giants wanted it more. They were cleaner with their play on offense, defense, special teams. This is what Giant football should look like. This is what it will hopefully look like when the games start to count for real and they start game planning and all that stuff. So overall, if you're a Giant fan, you got to like what you saw. If you saw the game, if you followed the game, you got to like what you saw, what the team put out there, because this is what it should look like moving forward. Now, I doubt you're going to see a situation where the Giants hold on to the ball for 41 minutes like they did this week. It'll probably be closer to 35 or so. But listen, the bottom line is they won. They won big. Not a lot of mistakes that I could see, having watched the game, having followed the game, gone back and looked at the stats and all that stuff. So you got to like what the Giants put out there. I know I did. I hope you guys and gals did as well. All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk about pick sixes. So interceptions? Nah, not quite. I'll tell you what I mean right after this. Hey, Giant fans, running a small business means wearing a lot of hats, and payroll, HR, and benefits can quickly become some of the most time-consuming tasks on the list. Gusto helps simplify those responsibilities with one platform designed to make managing a team easier. Gusto is an online payroll and benefits software built for small businesses. It's all in one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. From automatic payroll, tax filing, and simple direct deposits to health benefits, 401ks, and built-in onboarding tools, Gusto brings the day-to-day HR tasks together in one place. There are also certified HR experts available to help with those tougher HR situations. Most small business owners find that managing payroll and HR to be amongst the biggest administrative challenges with direct deposits, tax filings, benefits, and onboarding. And having Gusto handle all of that and then some takes a huge load off the shoulders of a small business owner. So if you are a small business owner and you're looking to simplify the administrative part of running your own business, try Gusto today at gusto.com/LockedOnNFL and get 3 months for free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months free at gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. One more time, that's gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. Locked On Giants is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in America, celebrating our 10th anniversary all year long. Be sure to keep it on the Locked On Podcast Network. You'll find surprises and other cool things coming up over the year. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI. That's where you can find all of our written work. And a big welcome to the Blue Crew, to our newcomers, and everybody else in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. Or if you're making us your first listen of the day, appreciate that as well. All right, in this segment, I've titled it Pick Sixes. Now, you're probably saying, wait a minute, there weren't any interceptions in this game. What are you talking about, right? Well, at least not for the Giants, there weren't any interceptions. There were actually 2 for the Miami Dolphins, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. What I want to talk about specifically are the Giants' 3 sixth-round draft picks. All right? Those 3 guys, J.C. Davis, Bobby Jamison-Travis, and Jack Kelly, they all had really good games. I mean, really good games. 6th-round draft picks. All of them just rose to the occasion. So let's kick it off. We'll start with Bobby Jamison-Travis. Now, this is a guy at the start of camp that I thought maybe he might be a bit of a project. I didn't know, would he have a chance of making the 53-man roster? Would he be better off, working on the practice squad instead? I thought he was raw. Now, after watching the first preseason game, and seeing how the Giants' depth was left something to be desired, I thought, okay, they've got to prioritize defensive line. I still think they do. I still think they add to the defensive line. But you know what? I feel a lot better about Bobby Jamison-Travis coming off of this game. Jamison-Travis, he's come on it late at practice. Against the Dolphins, he had 1 sack, 1 stop. And oh, by the way, now that he's wearing Dexter Lawrence's old 97 jersey, he even has his own little sack celebration where he rubs his belly. Got to feed the big boy, right? So I thought that was kind of funny. Bobby Jamison-Travis, still a little bit on the raw side, but he has really started to have his arrow point upwards. And, I don't know if he's going to make the 53, but he certainly helped himself against the Dolphins with his performance. All right, let's look at J.C. Davis, the offensive lineman. All right, now, J.C. Davis, he's the only one who went the distance. He started at left tackle and he finished at left tackle. All right, so he played pretty well. All right, now this is a guy, again, who I had some questions about. I thought, okay, young offensive lineman, maybe you slide him through to the practice squad, because it's going to take him some time to build up. He held his own. He played 81 snaps, only allowed 1 hurry all game long. 1 hurry in 81 snaps. And by the way, in the week 1 showing, he only played 21 snaps, and he didn't allow a single quarterback pressure. Now, what was kind of interesting about this is that if J.C. Davis continues to ascend like he did in this game and play well, maybe now that opens the door to where the coaches might feel a little bit more comfortable moving Marcus Bowe, who right now is the swing tackle at right and left. Maybe they feel a little bit more comfortable about moving him down the line to either guard or center. So that was a positive development to see J.C. Davis looks so good. And I get it. It was against the Dolphins backups, but the competition is equal. All right. So it's backups versus backups. It's not like it's backups versus starters. So the idea is you want to be the man amongst boys against your competition. And J.C. Davis this week, that he definitely was. Okay. Now let's talk about one of my favorites of the pick sixes, Jack Kelly, the linebacker. Jack Kelly, without question, is making this roster. I would be absolutely shocked if Jack Kelly is not on the 53-man roster. This week he had on defense 1 tackle and 1 stop. And overall, He has this preseason, he's got 1 missed tackle, 2 quarterback pressures, 3 total tackles, 2 stops total. Nothing really on special teams yet, although in terms of making tackles and stuff, he might have had his goose egg in that column, but he was very active on special teams, which is his forte. And I mention this because as I see it, the Giants will probably keep originally I would have said 4. I think now it's gonna be 5. I think they might keep 5 inside linebackers, and 2 of those guys are gonna be for special teams. So, I think Kelly for sure is gonna make this team. Then it boils down to, Darius Muiso or Zaire Barnes. I right now would give the nod to Zaire Barnes. I thought Zaire Barnes was a little bit more active and productive on defense than Muiso. So that being said, just, getting back to Jack Kelly here for a minute. Jack Kelly, he can give you something on special teams. He can give you something on defense. Muiso can do that too, but I just get the sense that, he's behind Jack Kelly. So it's going to be an interesting, it goes back to what I said in the first segment about how there's going to be some tough decisions that need to be made. This is going to be one of them. But I can't see Jack Kelly losing out to Darius Muiso. I really can't, and that's nothing against Muiso. I like him. He's not a bad player, but I just think he's going to get swept up in the numbers. And I think Zaire Barnes and Kelly give the Giants a little bit more on defense in addition to special teams than Muiso does. Muiso, of course, had an opportunity to start the last year and didn't really, stand out. I know he had injury issues, but if they thought they had something in him, would they have brought in Arvell Reese? Would they have brought in Tremaine Edmonds? I don't think so. So just overall, folks, the 3 6th-round picks for the Giants, strong showing, a lot of positivity for the future. They're not finished products. Come regular season, maybe they won't even be activated, or all of them won't be activated. They might be, on the inactive list. But this is how you build up the foundation with your young players. And right now, again, it's preseason, but it looks like the Giants hit on their 6th-round picks. And it's not very often that the Giants have had luck with day 3 picks, but right now it looks good for them for sure. All right, coming up next, the game, even though it was dominated by the Giants, there were maybe a couple of things that, you wish had gone a little bit differently. I don't know if we want to call them true concerns, but yeah, I guess we can. We'll talk about those right after this. Hey, Giant fans, life gets busy and figuring out what's for dinner every night can quickly become another thing on the to-do list. Home Chef takes that stress out of mealtime by delivering fresh ingredients and easy-to-follow recipes right to your door. Whether you're looking to eat healthier, save money on takeout, or simply spend less time grocery shopping and meal planning, Home Chef makes cooking at home simple, convenient, and enjoyable. Home Chef offers more than 30 meal options every week, including calorie-conscious and GLP-1 friendly meals, so that there's something for every schedule and lifestyle. And people really love it. Home Chef is rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. With my days getting busy again, I can't tell you how easy and convenient it is to have Home Chef meals in my refrigerator because I know what's going into each meal rather than having to guess what's in takeout food. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off and free shipping for their first box, plus free dessert for life. Go to homechef.com/lockedonnfl. That's homechef.com/lockedonnfl to get 50% off your first box and free dessert for life and free shipping. Homechef.com/lockedonnfl. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I am your host, Patricia Traina. Make sure you keep it here all week long. I'm going to have episodes for you all through the week. And then, of course, the Giants wrap up the preseason on Friday against the New York Jets. It's a road game, but they're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? All right, so we'll have coverage of that. Also, on Sunday, we will have a special edition of the Giants Squad Show. It'll be Brandon Olson hosting, Mark Collins, and myself will be the panelists. So, hope you will join us for that. 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Locked On Giants YouTube channel. And of course, we will have the audio for our audio listeners after the show is done. So, hope you will check that out. All right, now, there's no such thing as a perfect game, but the Giants came pretty close, I would say, against the Miami Dolphins. Still, if we're looking at concerns, I'm going to point to 3 performances that kind of made me grit my teeth a little bit. The first one, and this is ongoing for me, is Darius Alexander. Darius Alexander, now this is a guy who during the spring and the early part of the summer looked like he was well on his way to nailing down a starting job. Folks, when it has come time to the games, Alexander's run defense has just not been there. And even though he and Chauncey Golston don't exactly play the same position, Golston's more of a, outside stand-up linebacker type. Golston can play some of that 3 and 5 technique that Alexander can play. Watch carefully because I would not be surprised if he starts taking some of those snaps. Right now, Alexander, the fact that he was out there tells you that the coaches wanted to give him a chance to kind of get his act together. And I don't think we could say that he did that. He had 0 tackles or stops this week, according to Pro Football Focus, and he was ranked, or graded, I should say, 31st out of 32 Giants defenders against the run. That is a problem. It's a big problem. And if Alexander doesn't figure it out and start playing the run better, and again, I don't know exactly what the issue was. I haven't looked at the tape from this week's game just yet, but he's losing his hold on a starting spot. And it's a darn shame because I know they were hoping that he would step up and be a guy for them, be a starter alongside of DJ Reader and Shelby Harris, both of whom, by the way, did not play this week. So Darius Alexander continues to be a concern as far as I'm concerned. His run defense in particular, and I don't know if it's just, again, is he just the technique? Is it the interest? I don't know what it is, but he better get his head on straight and figure this out because he's too talented to sit on the bench or see a reduction in his snaps. All right, I've got to talk about this because I know I'm going to get some pushback here on people, but Odell Beckham Jr. had a big drop in the end zone that should have been a touchdown. And I know some of you are going to say, well, you're picking on Odell for one play. Yeah, but, instead of having 7 points, they ended up with just 3 on that one play. You can't have that in a game. If that's a better opponent that they're playing, that could have been the difference in the outcome of the game. And, some of you will probably say, but Odell was getting open. Odell caught 2 of 4 passes. All right. Now, I think one of the passes, besides the drop that he had, one of them wasn't on target or, was just not a good ball thrown by Jameis Winston. Odell had, let me see, he had 17 yards on his 2 receptions. That's an 8.5 yards per reception average. His long was 12. So look, I love Odell. I want Odell on this team. But you're not going to make this team if you're dropping touchdowns. You're not going to make this team if your percentage is 50% or lower in terms of, the balls you catch. You're just not going to. And I don't want to hear, oh, but he was getting open. Oh, but he was blocking. Don't want to hear it, guys. He's got to do all the other stuff. And he knows that. He knows that. I mean, after he dropped that one ball, he kind of rocked back and just was like, kind of put his hands on his head and just was like, man, what did I just do? When you're on the bubble like Odell is, you can't have plays like that. You've got to come up with everything. And he knows that. He's going to get another chance, but I don't think I could sit here and honestly say that Odell solidified his hole on a roster spot. Just when you think he takes a step back. It's like one step forward, two steps back with him. So he'll have another opportunity this week. He'll have another opportunity in the preseason finale. I'm pulling for Odell. I want Odell on this team. But right now, I don't know that you could say, oh, you put him over a Dalen Cambry, for example, or a Braxton Berrios. So, the numbers might come up and get him. He's got to take control and, convince the coaches that the numbers shouldn't be an issue. One other guy that is a bit of a concern 2 weeks in a row now, Tyrone Tracy Jr. Now, we all know last week Tyrone Tracy Jr. gave up that big whiff, if you will, on the sack that rocked Jackson Dart, sent him to the Blue Medical Tent. This week, Tracy had a fumble, a lost fumble deep in the red zone that should have been a touchdown. That's a 7-point swing right there. Now, what was kind of ironic is that Tracy cleaned up the ball security issues that he had as a rookie. And sure enough, here we had one big one. Now, I don't know if this is a result of Tracy looking over his shoulder because Najee Harris is here. I don't know if he's playing too tight and just needs to relax. I don't know if he's got something else on his mind. I don't know what's factoring in here. I do know that Tracy, if he's not getting it together, Devin Singletary had a much better game this week than Tyrone Tracy. And, a lot of people, myself included, thought, okay, once they sign Najee Harris, that Singletary might be the odd man out. And, Tracy, I think he's going to be on this roster. I think they keep 4, but he's going to lose snaps if he doesn't pull it together. He's got to have a strong showing in the preseason finale. He's got to come back this week in practice and have a strong showing. If he doesn't, he's going to drop from right now. I think you could say he's probably RB3. He's going to drop to RB4. And that's if they keep 4 running backs. So, again, I like Tracy. I think he's a good player, sometimes underrated, but he's been sloppy in the games, and he can do better. We've seen him do better, and he needs to start doing better. All right, Giant fans, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Giants. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and making us part of your day or your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast. Hosts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this season. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Giant fans, I'll see you tomorrow on the Squad Show. Again, 10 a.m. Eastern with Mark Collins, Brandon Olson, and myself. And then I will see you on Monday with an all-new episode of Locked On Giants.